week 4 of Spartan Radio, the place for your local high school information. My name is Daniel Magiera, and my co-host is Adler Johnston. Today we have Mr. Gordon Smith joining us to discuss the building plans for East Long Meadow High School. They are very preliminary talking stages and stuff, but I'm excited to get going for it. So, Mr. Smith, how's your day going?
My day's going really well. I'm really glad to be here with you guys.
I'm excited for this. So I'm going to just run through the sports stuff real quick, and then we'll get going into everything else. So for a baseball team, it was hard to find information on stats for the last game they had. You couldn't really find anything, and I asked around, but no good information. They had a really good season with a rough start, really bad during the month of April, but they came back and made a really strong playoff push. Then, what did I have? They won their first playoff game against Central, but then lost against Westfield in the Western Mass Championship. And then they lost in the state playoffs against, against Grafton 3-2, ending their season. Congratulations to the boys team. Great season. Softball, they ended their season last Saturday against Silver Lake High School 2-14 in the first round of the state championship. In the first round of the Western Mass Championships, they won their quarterfinal against Ludlow 9-4, but lost in the semifinal round against Westfield. Some of their stats, they had 73 runs on the year, and 5 people have a batting average of 500 or better. Sarah Moriarty, Keelan O'Shea, Kenzie Ryan, Sophie Sayers, and Lily Sterling. Congratulations to the girls on an amazing season. Boys lacrosse, they went 6-10 on the season. They lost against Pope Francis in the semifinal round of the Western Mass Championships and have been seeded 26th in the D3 state tournament, playing against number 7 Austin Prep in the round of 32 of the playoffs. They play tonight at Austin Prep at 6:15. Couple stats, sophomore Shane Becker led the team with 24 goals, closely followed by Andrew Nolan with 21 goals. Goalie Jack Calzadisi had 140 saves on the season, and Colin Sherwood with 58, for a grand total of 198 saves on the season. Congratulations to the entire team for a great season. Good luck in tonight's game. Girls lacrosse, they went 10-8 on the season so far, and on an extremely hot streak of 7 games won in a row, and got the first seed for the Western Mass Championship bracket. They blew out Wacona in the semifinal rounds of the playoffs 22-5, and beat Northampton in overtime 14-13, with Adelaide Jordan scoring the overtime game winner. In the state bracket, number 18 EL plays number 15 Westside tonight at 7 at Westside in the first round for the playoffs. Congratulations to them for an amazing season, and good luck in the playoffs tonight. So, after that, let's get going on some of the building ideas. So, I saw for some of the buildings, right? So, we have this one, the far left. So I'm pulling these off of, I have about minute 39 on the EL School Building Committee, which was on May 25th. So you have the 3 building ideas that are there. They're super early, but you have one that's like preserving the good. So it's like kind of keeping the old building. What was the thought process there?
So before I get into the building ideas, let me just back up a sec. You have a link to the school building committee meeting from May 25th, as you said. Mm-hmm. Anyone who is interested in getting a more in-depth look at what the feasibility study is all about, getting a chance to see our new design firm, which is Jones Whitsitt Architects, and in association with Sims, Maney, and McKee Architects, and getting a better understanding probably than I'll be able to provide quickly here around some of the pictures that were presented in that presentation. But to your question, what we tried to do for the school building committee was give just some ideas of what hopefully, with the help of the community, right now where the architects are getting information from high school staff and students and really getting an idea before we release for the summer, how do we use this building? What's our programming doing throughout this building? What are the challenges? What do we see uses in the future? Where's our educational programming going? And so with that lens, these ideas actually came from presentations that were being made to members of the school building committee from East Long Meadow and members of the design selection team at the Mass School Building Authority. This was actually through the interview process.
Oh, okay.
And so what you're looking at is, and Dorrie Brooks, one of the architects, is here with us this morning. What you're looking at are 3 ideas that just really are being presented to generate conversation, discussion, and get more ideas so that this can become a building that is going to serve the full community. Obviously on a daily basis, Monday through Friday, serve our students in grades 9 through 12, but we know that the high school is used round the clock, really almost 24/7. How do we make that a better experience for the entire community?
Yeah, because me and Adler have talked in the past about like some of the ideas we'd like to see done, some of the things that we'd like to see fixed and stuff. So, like ceiling tiles are one of them.
Ceiling tiles will certainly be fixed, no matter what we do.
Yeah.
But actually, to that point, if you guys are free, we have a community visiting session.
On
I think would
June
be helpful.
15th, right?
June 15th here at the high school auditorium. We'd love people to come in person if they can, but we will have a Zoom link if they can't make it, 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And that will provide the entire community a chance to really understand the Mass School Building Authority feasibility study process, and get an idea of what all of this means. What was being presented at the school building committee. What does a school building committee do?
Yeah.
And because it's a complicated process. And so even superintendents who have been involved in it for a while are still learning. Okay, well, this next step, what does that mean? What does it entail?
How do we proceed from here?
Correct. I don't know if I'm missing anything.
Well, let me jump to your question about
Sure.
why save the good, why these 3 concepts in front of you. So the designers working with the district are collaborating with you, but ultimately this is your call to make. So what we'll be presenting are options, and this is an example of the idea of presenting options. The MSBA will support this project. That's the State School Building Authority, and they participate. And as a part of their participation, they require they have certain expectations on the district for their submittals and review process. So it happens ultimately in about 3 steps. And in the first step, they want to see that you've looked at the idea of renovation, addition, or new construction. And they want to know that you've really vetted the location, maybe within new construction on this site, which is where we're planning to keep the project. Maybe you're looking at different locations on the site. So before we even come to start working with you, we try to engage the district by showing them our capacity to explore those ideas. So those are us as a design team saying to the district, here's kind of what it's going to look and feel like. Here's why in a renovation, the things we're looking at might be the auditorium and the gym typically, because those are big spaces that maybe you already have value in. Once we get into the project, we talk to faculty, students, staff, the community, and we find out, are these spaces that you really value, or maybe not so much, you'd rather have new ones?
Yeah.
So we still have to present the options to you, and partly it's about being sure the community is really, really weighing the choices. So for instance, a pool is a really important feature at this school. Maybe not that pool, but a pool. You hear a lot about that. So we need to look and just show the community what's the cost of saving that pool versus the cost of a larger pool or the same size pool but new, all of those options. So and the process has to be so transparent because ultimately the taxpayers are going to have to vote. And we want as much participation to the process as possible so that when those numbers roll out and people have to vote yes or no, they've already thought about it, they've already bought into that idea, they feel participants to the process, and everybody has to be willing to show up there and kind of listen to each other and not necessarily, approve a project based on only one issue, because it has to be a kind of a compromise of visions, because it's really hard to get absolutely everything you want and have it be, within everybody's price point,
Yeah, everyone's
So
had their own
instead,
ideas coming
yeah.
on for what they want in a high school. So
Exactly.
like I know sometimes my English teacher will talk about how like this school was built for like 60s technology, It
Right,
was not built for,
exactly.
cords everywhere and every single student in the school to have a Chromebook that may or may not need charging.
Right.
So,
Right. A lot of what we do in the early informational sessions and getting people to come to these visioning sessions is about hearing about the community's priorities. And your school's really unusual because it's really a community space. The site itself is a community
they use
space.
it for a bunch of different
Used
things.
for so many things. So that's different than a lot of districts. So we want to hear about what the community values, but we also want to educate people who don't come into the school about what education looks like today. And what we find is when we start talking to faculty and even students, the bar is so low in their expectations because they've been living with a building. This building's been around since the 1950s, parts of it. So people are asking for things like clean ceiling tiles when you're trying to talk about where's technology going, where's education going, and what we want students to talk about is how do you learn best, what kind of spaces would support that.
Yeah.
And those things are really changing, and particularly I'd say after the time off for the working at home during the pandemic, I think there's a lot of things we don't know about where education's going, and the best way to get at that is to talk and have really robust conversations about how do people really learn and how will you be learning in the future. So
Yeah, I know for me, I typically do a lot of my homework. I like, private space to do it. I'll hide in my room. I'll go into my mom's office and I'll do it at her desk with the computers and stuff like that. And that's usually the best plan for me to do my studying. So that's one of the really important things that I want to have is a school library. Something along those lines where I could, if I'm going to be in school for extra time, I'm probably not the only one that likes studying alone. Someone else is going to want to go to a school library to just sit there and clear their head and get done with their homework for the night. So that's something that I think I deem important. But there's other people like me that some people engage better in studying with other groups. And that's something I've noticed. I know a lot of people that, go and hang out and they do their studying. I have never been able to do that. I always end up on playing board games or something like that with a person. Hey, let's go get pizza. So that never goes well for me. Adler, how about you?
Well, okay, so is the current idea or thought process to build off the current school and update certain things, or what's the? Because it's been sounding like there's a want to keep at least most of the current building.
no,
Or
actually,
is
I'd
that-
say less likely.
Okay.
We will hear from the community. We have to explore it. Part of it is we have to show the community that might not participate fully in the project. What would it mean if you didn't do a project at all, right? So over the next 30 years, what would it cost to keep this building updated, to make it code accessible, to make the teaching technology successful? Because there's a cost associated with not doing a new school or an addition, and a lot of people forget about it because if they don't participate with the superintendent, they don't see these costs regularly.
Yeah.
So we try and show people what that number is as a part of the process of thinking about it. So again, it's a process of due diligence about cost to say, what if you do nothing? What if you just upgrade this and try and fully renovate it to meet your needs? Can you do it? Are the classrooms even large enough to meet state standards? Probably not,
Right now, we're all below state standards.
Right, we're below
Yeah,
state
that was one
standards
of
in
the
many
things that was posted was
Yeah.
what are the ideas or what is the sizes of the classrooms compared to
Right.
how many kids are actually taking these classes.
Right, exactly.
A good example is you take a look at our science labs. They are, in accordance with the state recommended sizes, they are undersized. So if you get into some of our science labs where we start to get moving towards 20 students and you're trying to do a lab activity, now students are actually bumping up against each other shoulder to shoulder.
Really close.
And that can become a safety hazard. Not only do you have to think about that, but just the impact on learning itself, because in that environment you don't have partners having their own space to conduct the lab activity. It's almost as like you're doing a group activity of
Everyone's asking each
16.
other, "Hey, can you keep your stuff over there? I'm gonna stay here. I'll try and stay close."
Right.
Right.
And so that's almost the hidden impact of remaining in a building that we're currently in. You can bring it up to code, you can do certain things, but it doesn't change that physical space.
Yep.
So that's a hidden impact that we've been talking about as we've gone through the statement of interest process and gotten into the MSBA processes. Currently, we're in the feasibility study.
Mm-hmm.
Does that
No.
make sense?
Yeah. So, what are the ideas for when the school is being built? Where are the students going to learn? Are we going to, like, I know that's a whole nother idea in of itself. So, but I know that clearly we have remote learning, which although may not be a preferable option, is a option. I know that some schools bring out trailers. Sometimes they get sent to. When this building was originally made, I know that they sent a lot of students over to Springfield schools.
Right.
Interesting.
So you had a lot of that stuff.
I'm happy to talk about that a little bit as well. It again, part of this early phase is in looking at renovation, addition, new construction. Part of the conversation has to be phasing that construction in and handling where students will be during it. And those are all the options. Moving students away from the site, bringing modulars on site, that becomes part of the project cost. Those are very expensive, and they're not supported by the MSBA's commitment to the project, so that tends to be a deterrent. And that's part of why often a very desirable option we've seen districts choose is to build on site away from the existing building site.
Yeah,
So-
so build on the back fields over
Right,
there,
if
so
you-
you have the main building.
Exactly.
So during the
you're
course
able
of
to
building,
stay.
you just build over here, and then when it's all done, then you do demo.
Right, and maybe we do it in phases where part of it, we were, what you see in those options that we were presenting, we were trying to say, well, maybe you could stay in part of the building while part of it is, if we felt that it was important for the new school to be closer to Maple Street, say, maybe there's a way of overlapping the process. If that doesn't matter to the community and it's easier all the way around to keep students here and not have any interruption, we can sort of separate the sites and build new further back. Then we have to look at issues of access and circulation and where the sports fields go and the wetland boundary. Those all become part of the process. So those are the sorts of things that I see in those options, but that we'll have to talk about to make sure everybody sees them and why we're looking at that in that new option. We've already heard, for instance, this district, you have this commitment the town's already made to the Gainfield Stadium. So we were looking at that, not having talked to anybody, said, well, that's really valuable. They've made that commitment. That's really helpful to the project. We don't want to redo that.
The turf.
We'd actually
But-
like to add to it. if
Right, we
can.
want to add to it. We want to maximize our investment there, but we also probably don't want the school to get too far away that it becomes not helpful.
Yeah, you have to walk like half a mile to
Right.
go go to my football practice. Like,
Exactly.
they'll have me doing sprints between the school and the football field.
Yeah, and it's already come up, is tennis staying there, basketball courts, where might they fall? So those are all the pieces of the puzzle that we're playing with and what's the right adjacency. And what you'll see in this process a little bit coming up is we'll be exploring some of those issues. After August, we'll get in greater depth. And we'll be having various charrettes where we'll show the site plan evolving and really tease out, because there's always, again, like I say, advantages and disadvantages to different options, and sometimes you think it has to be one way, but then when you start exploring what you get by sort of loosening your parameters a little, then you might pull it away. Already we've heard people say, well, if the school's a little farther away, maybe that would allow more community resources between the school and the game field. Maybe that's a good thing. How do we get people into a pool facility and a recreational facility in a way that's safe and secure from the school so that students aren't interrupted? Those are all parts of the conversation.
Yep. All right. I'm going to start closing out a little bit here. Thank you all for joining me today. This is probably going to be our last upload of the opening season. We're going to continue it again next fall. Thank you all for listening to the Spartan Spectator podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you for having us.
No problem.